if you don't believe in yourself, or if you think you're incapable of something, then you'll never really fully commit to it. And also, not believing that you can do something also doesn't necessarily keep people from beginning the thing.
Now, it is often said that we are what we eat. We become what we consistently do. And that if we're lucky or aware, we are offered the power and opportunity to change and build new realities for ourselves. My guest today has challenged his perceived limitations, and by doing so, has created in the presence of masters and legends, has snatched a Grammy on the way, and has nurtured new talent seen and unseen. On this episode of Off the Record, come with me as we discover the mind, habits, and some of the neuroticisms that have made him the musical intellect and kind and thoughtful human he is. It is my pleasure and honor to have a sit down with Kiefer. Welcome.
Thanks for having me, man.
Welcome, Kiefer. It's been really great. Just first of all, spending this day with you and lunch. We had a big meal. Had a nice Indian meal. And just being, thanks to a good friend who gave us this beautiful backdrop just to, sit and kind of chat, and just converse for a bit. But dude, really great meeting you and welcome to Malaysia.
Dude.
How are you feeling? I know that you're on tour now. You just came from Seoul and you've been spending the last 3 or 4 days in KL.
Right.
What's up? Like, how you doing?
Yeah, it's been amazing, and dude, you've made us to feel so welcome, and you've provided such warmth and hospitality over the hotel. We've been having a great time, man.
Awesome.
Obviously went to that little farm on the hill.
Yeah.
Pete's place.
Yeah, they
had some great food yesterday.
Amazing job.
Yeah. So we've been having a great time. The show was so fun, and so yeah, we appreciate it, man.
Yeah, likewise. Yeah, I'm really happy that we're just sitting down, kind of, talking, and as I mentioned to you, I've been having conversation with folks and just getting to know them, right? Everything behind what they do, just who are they as humans, as people? What are their beliefs? What are their ideologies, or what are things that they live by? And I'm probably gonna start going in from the deep end, if you don't mind.
Yeah, let's do it. I'm down.
But in just checking out, some of your, past interviews and conversations, there was this common denominator, right? Or this phrase that you would use in almost all of them. And forgive me if I'm not saying it correctly, but it was like be encouraged and encourage.
Yes, be encouraged and encourage others.
Yeah, and encourage others. First of all, I mean, people can kind of reference back and know where you got that from, and I think it's somebody that was really important in your life, or made that stamp right in your life. But could you share? I mean, today, present day, is there something that you yourself feel like you could be encouraged in, or feel like you could use that encouragement personally?
Oh, yeah, definitely. So the phrase comes from my teacher Abraham Boreal, who was one of the most recorded bassists, if not the most recorded bassist of all time.
Okay.
He was Quincy Jones's call on bass for like 30 years. He's played on like 3,000 recording sessions. It's nuts.
Wow.
He's a very iconic musician, and he's very well known, certainly by bass players. And so, yeah, that's just something that he reminded me. And it does so many different things. It helps with so many different things. But yeah, I think in my personal life, some things where I need to feel encouraged, and really the word courage is in there. So yeah, I need courage in my path toward my health needs to get better.
Okay.
I need to eat better. I need to work out more. I need to smoke less and run more. Stuff like that.
Why is that? You mentioned that at lunch, actually.
Yeah.
I mean, why is that something that's the forefront of your mind.
Yeah, why does it require encouragement? Because whenever I try to get into my like personal fitness thing and I fail, it's kind of demoralizing.
Okay.
You know, you try to go to the gym, you go 4 days in a row, and then you're just like, I suck, I can't do this. And then you stop for a few months, and then you come back and
A few months, dude.
I mean, well, I go on the road. It's hard, you know. So, I mean, certainly in my 20s too. Like when I was 25 or 26, I didn't work out there was a good 7 years where I didn't like exercise hardly ever. So I needed that, you know, whether externally from just the people around me, my environment to support me, or also just internally, you know, be encouraged is also that first part of the phrase really means like it's an individual thing to feel that way internally. And so, and then with my health, I need to do that because it's a challenge, you know, and then when things don't go well, you can blame yourself, you can be hard on yourself. Oh man, I'll never figure this out. I suck, whatever. You know, that's those types of thoughts I deal with all the time.
Yeah.
So, my personal health is one. There's a lot of things that when I really analyze how my brain works, I'm really doubting myself in a lot of areas. And the number one reason why I don't succeed is because I doubt myself for some reason or another. And the doubt can come from any number of places. Sometimes it can originate from something someone said, and then I just took the narrative and started telling it to myself as well. Or it can just be something a bad idea I just came up with someday to tell myself I'm not good enough for something. So there's a lot of areas that I have to continually use that.
Yeah, it's such an interesting thought, right? How we sometimes dish out this advice that we fail to kind of take on for ourselves.
Yeah.
You know, because I also heard you say, you know, while you've been here, you said, you know, the act of somebody just believing themselves, just trying something out, regardless of it, you know, could maybe materialize in them experiencing and realizing that they're really good at something or that they can actually do it, right? So what you're saying now is, you know, letting that kind of self-doubt or these kind of narratives kind of play in your mind are also kind of stopping you from realizing that, one, it's not true.
Yeah.
And and two, just realizing that greater self, right, of yourself. But going back to the health thing, I mean, why health? Have you had like a health scare, or has something happened where you're like, man, I need to safeguard this? Or
it's, for me, I think it's more just like I just would feel physically bad all the time. I've improved a lot in the last few years. But yeah, there's a good portion of my life where I was just feeling really bad, just feeling physically bad. Yeah,
like
tired, sluggish, not well. And it was like very, if you knew me, it's a lot, especially in my late 20s, like a lot of fast food, like all the time. American fast food, just feeling bad, you know. So, and drinking and smoking and stuff too, you know, playing on tours, getting excited, drinking a lot, you know. And so it was like very obvious, like, okay, like I know why I feel bad all the time. I gotta, like, you know, as I drink alcohol, but hey, dude,
just a daytime, you know.
We're in KL.
You're in KL.
You know, and I am doing much better than I was, but you know, so yeah, like in my late 20s, it was just like, oh, I need to like work on my health, you know. But yeah, it wasn't a health scare. It was just like I could tell that my lifestyle was just like making me feel really bad all the time, and it was like just getting in the way of, you know, going after the things in life that were like really important to me, you know, like actually like chasing my dreams and stuff, because I would just like be sitting around feeling bad, you know?
But that's dope, man. And I mean, I think that's great also, like, no pun intended, as a musician, but like just being in tune with your body, right? And just like listening, because if we do take the like opportunity to stand still, like definitely our body will speak to us, man. And you know, I even feel, this may sound a little bit out there or crazy, but I even feel that you stand really still, you could even kind of feel your organs and have them kind of speak to you of like, hey, I need rest, or I need this, or, you know. And so I think that takes a lot of practice. But definitely the body has a voice, right? And you don't want to wait till too late
when it's yelling at you or when it's like speaking at you.
Yeah, sure.
That's cool. So encouraged, man. So we should have been like, I should have brought you to the gym every day while you were here, at least for a run or something. But,
but the end of this, I've been on the road like for 8 months straight, pretty much off and on, and it's been really hard to stay on it.
Yeah, when you're on the road, for that amount of time, are there habits or like rituals that you incorporate into your routine? Because I'm assuming that the road doesn't necessarily, other than your environment, your backdrop changes, of course, time and schedule. But are there things that are constants that you're like, no matter where I am, no matter what I'm doing, this is a non-negotiable, and I'm always doing these things?
I haven't been the best about that. I haven't been the most disciplined. I know in my U.S. tour, I was doing very well. My U.S. tour, which was in October, November, I was hitting the gym just about every day. And if it was like a travel day or something, I had like a TRX and, some other things too. So I'd like just bring that into the green room. I have another one, a simple one, which is like whenever I arrive at sound check, I would chug a bottle of water immediately. Just get it out of the way, because I learned that if I drink water too close to the show, then I feel like I have to go to the bathroom when I'm on stage. I'm very, very anxious, so I always feel like I have to go to the bathroom. I don't know why I had to sell that. I don't know why I had to sell that over here, but anxiety is definitely a thing for me. So, but if I drink, too close to the show, then I have to go to the bathroom. If I drink too much early in the day, then I gotta pee when I'm in the van, and we're like driving 8 hours at a time and having to pull over sucks. So I'll drink like a little bit of water, but then I'll have like a lot of it like right when we arrive at the venue. It's usually when things like that. On this US tour, I also didn't drink at all. Like
no alcohol?
No alcohol at all.
Okay.
I think I had 3 beers the entire run.
Okay.
One was the night my album came out. One was on the last show, and one was in LA for the LA show.
And that was conscious, like decision, or just...
Yeah. It was like it would be nice to have a beer, like 1 beer for this show, 1 beer for this show, 1 beer for that show.
Nice.
But of the whole month, just 3 beers for a month. It's really good for me.
Yeah.
And then so that tour I was very disciplined. But then when I got to Europe, I really, I've toured Europe a lot, but I still haven't figured that one out, because it's just physically and mentally it's such a different game, because you're jet lagged, and you're jet lagged going 8 hours east in my case. So that's like a whole different thing. When you're, the time where you would normally go to the gym, like during the daytime for the show, well, if it's like, 3 or 4 p.m., well, now it feels like 11 or midnight back home. So you're starting to crash in the middle of the day.
Yeah.
And so, that one was really hard. We also didn't see the sun the entire tour. Did see the sun one time until I think the second to last day. When we were in Stockholm.
Were you in like Denmark?
Stockholm. We saw just a little bit of sun. Dude. So that was just really tough to exercise, and it was just like a really dreary, kind of mentally exhausting tour. Just it was just one of those. So
I mean, well, you were sharing, earlier with me that I guess one discipline that you are trying to, or one habit that you're trying to kind of incorporate in your daily practice is writing, right? You said, hey, I'm trying to write 1,000 or 1,000 plus words a day,
right?
Because of this book, that you're trying to go after, and that's a beautiful thing. I mean, maybe you can share a little bit about that discipline, because you were sharing like, well, I'm just doing it like 2-3 times a week, but then you said, hey, when I get back home, I want to make sure I'm doing it like 5 times a week, right? So maybe share what that process has been like, and then maybe give a little insight of what's this book about and why.
Yeah, for sure. So I decided to write a book to kind of solve a couple of problems. One of the problems is that I have these rants that I go on with my students all the time, and I'd be saying the same things all the time, telling the same stories, giving the same anecdotes and examples of things. And And so I decided I should just write these down in a book. I think it also would be just very useful for a much larger audience of musicians, particularly maybe kids in music school currently, and then also like interdisciplinarily, if I can use that word. Is that a word? We'll see. It is now.
It is.
People in other mediums, I think it'll be useful for them too.
Okay.
So, but yeah, basically, I challenged myself on this tour on those off days to do 1,000 words.
Okay.
So I've had a couple of off days. I'm trying to think, maybe like 5 or 6. So, but I'm at 10,000 words right now. I did a few before the tour as well, but I really want to get to 20 or 25,000. And then also on flights or something, I'll go back and like edit and like, actually like tweak things. That said, I am going to have to work with like an actual writer to help me write this book. But my goal is to get to that mark of 20 or 25K words, especially when I get home from tour. I think I can probably flesh it out.
Yeah.
And then I'll probably just spend, honestly, the rest of the year like revising.
Just editing.
Revising and rewriting with someone that is a much more talented and experienced writer than myself.
Yeah, dude, I mean, I think that's beautiful, man. And I think that's pretty dope that, first of all, you're realizing that you have these narratives that you're always kind of, that you're always saying, or things that, people could say, well, these are my quote unquote mantras, or things that I'm always kind of spewing out, not only to myself, but people around me.
Right.
But the act of like being aware of it, also documenting it, I think is a really, it's a pretty awakened thing, right? And so, I don't know, maybe could you share, because you said something that really stuck with me, which was, expanding self-identity is something I believe in, right? And when you said that, I was like, oh, that's pretty dope. Like,
right.
So maybe first kind of sharing, what does that mean, today? And to you, expanding self-identity, when you're saying this to other people or even to yourself, maybe you could just break that down a little bit.
For sure. Maybe the first thing I want to preface this with is that not everybody has this problem. I think a lot of people have no reason to ever doubt themselves. It's a rare thing, but some people really just have that. Some people just, whatever they want to do, they just start doing it and no one can tell them shit, Me personally, I had a lot of self-doubt in so many different areas, even though I also was, at the same time, a relatively confident person, But yeah, expanding self-identity, for me, I think my theory is that if you don't believe in yourself, or if you think you're incapable of something, then you'll never really fully commit to it. And also, not believing that you can do something also doesn't necessarily keep people from beginning the thing. So I'll explain. When I was a kid, I loved music. I loved making music immediately, as a lot of people do. And even though I was doing it every day and playing piano every day, I wasn't like fully committing to it, because I didn't discover until I was about 20 years old that there was a part of me that didn't believe I was really going to be able to do it at a high level.
Okay.
I always knew I could be like, I'll probably be like, okay, I'll be like a decent musician, but I never believed I could be very good or even great or whatever. I never believed I could reach a full potential. And then I realized that I was thinking that way, and realized that that's why I wasn't practicing. That's why I was skipping entire days of practice. I'd practice, 1 day a week for 15 or 30 minutes. And then the rest of the days I'd just be jamming, noodling, messing around. Just not doing real practice.
Just because you were thinking like, well, I'm never going to get to a certain level, so why would invest time into this?
Yeah. And it would be a subconscious thought, because what would happen is I would start practicing, maybe doing what my teacher would tell me to do. And then the second things would get difficult, right? I get to a measure that I can't play or something. And I would get frustrated very easily. And then the thought that would follow that just instinctively would be, man, am I even practicing this right? Is this even going to help? What's this for? Why am I doing this? Am I ever even going to figure this thing out? This is like the third day in a row this has happened.
Yeah.
And, with those thoughts, like, how can you cannot sustain that for 10,000 hours. It's impossible. Like, that's just like, so unfeasible. I couldn't imagine thinking that for 10,000 hours, much less being productive in those 10,000 hours.
Of course.
So 10,000 hours being the Malcolm Gladwell number for mastering something, right? So yeah, at some point I was like, why do I think like that? You know, and then it was like, you know, I went and I saw one of my favorite pianists, Gerald Clayton is his name, but I saw him perform, and he was just absolutely incredible. And I remember I almost had like a panic attack because I was just watching him do this, and it like all these thoughts came flooding in of like, oh, I'll never be able to do that. I'll never be able to play like that. I'll never be a great musician. And then I went home that day, and I realized that I had that thought, you know, that was like, oh, that's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm feeling. That's why I'm panicking when I'm watching this dude play. And so I remember I asked myself, like, what's the difference? Like, what's the difference between me and this person? And the difference was, there's like a surface level answer, which is very simple, which is that, well, he's practiced more. He practices better, like more effectively. He has more knowledge and experience, and he's been doing it for decades. And it's like, oh, well, I could just do that then. Why don't I do that though? Why don't I do that? If it is something in my control where I could just practice more and better, why is it still out of my control then? There's a psychological issue.
Yeah.
It's not an effort problem. There's an identity problem. And the identity problem is that I don't think I'll ever be good at this thing. Why would I ever waste my time practicing this thing if I'll never be good at it? That's why I'm skipping practice.
So how did you, thank you for sharing that. That's it's pretty monumental, right? And like, how did you then completely shift that? You know, I mean, firstly, how did you shift it? Do you feel like you've shifted it completely? I mean, listen, I think that you're recognized, of course, in the world, in the industry, by your peers. You have certain accolades already to your name that you can say, you know, I've accomplished, so on and so forth. I still think that you're, you know, at the genesis of what you're going to do and accomplish. But what was that shift, and you know, maybe giving a little bit of like the recipe of that shift and that magic that then you're sitting here today as someone who has accomplished ABC so far. That person who once said, you know, I'm never going to, wouldn't be here. So what was that shift for you?
There's a few things. I think the first thing I did was kind of an intentional exercise that a lot of people do, which is affirmations, although I'll address in a second how that's actually very flawed. Well, not flawed, but incomplete. So when I remember I said, you know what? Like, one of the issues is if you asked Gerald Clayton what he is, he'd say, I am a musician. And I wouldn't say that at that time of my life. And for me, I did music, but I wouldn't say I am a musician. And those are two different things. So I would just start waking up in the morning. I remember, like, before I opened my eyes, I was just like, I'm a musician. I'm going to start filtering everything I do, like, through that lens. You know? So I started saying I'm a musician. And so that actually was a big thing, because once I started acting on it, which is the missing part of affirmation culture, is that people don't always act on the affirmation, they just say it. But once I started acting on it and amassing evidence that I was this thing, my confidence shot through the roof, you know? So instead of skipping practice, I would do it. And when I would do it, it would build my confidence, because I would prove to myself, yeah, that's right, I am a musician. I am that thing, you know? And then whenever I would skip practice, it wouldn't hurt my confidence. It would just be like, well, that's not who I am. And I'm just, well, to be honest, I didn't skip practice too often, but if I did, it was almost like skipping brushing your teeth.
Yeah.
Like, it was just kind of gross.
Yeah. It's a non-negotiable.
I couldn't go to bed without doing it. And if I was about to go to bed and I haven't done it yet, I'm just get up and do it for 5 minutes. It became like that. It's just like, because I identified with this thing, then the behaviors followed, and the behaviors that would confirm that I'm a musician built my confidence, and the behaviors that were not fitting in with that identity, I just didn't tolerate them. And there's this book, Atomic Habits. James Clear talks about this. He says, instead of thinking, what do I need to do to become great? Think about, who do I need to become? Because if your identity changes, then the behaviors will follow. And I hadn't read this book yet, but I think I kind of stumbled into the same sort of approach where, like, I saw myself, I just increased my self-esteem kind of synthetically. But then, once you start amassing evidence of, once you put 100 days of practice in a row, you're like, I am that motherfucker. I practice every day. I don't not do that. Even if it's 5 minutes, even if it's 10, 15, I don't have to do 4 hours every single day. But as long as I'm like putting in, a consistent effort on some level every day that, I just wanted to amass evidence of the identity that I aspired to have. And then after a while, it just, I believed in it. My confidence went up.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, and it's also what we choose to put that energy into, right? Where at that point it was your music. Today we're talking about, okay, health. How do you put those 5 or 10 or 15 minutes a day into that, right? It doesn't have to be this critical kind of massive time, right?
Right.
That's great. Going back to what you were saying, about be encouraged and encourage others. There's something that I try to do, right? I can't say that I'm batting 100, right? But like, there's something that I try to do on a daily, which is there's 4 things that I want to do every day. And one of those things is, and it's a bit loose, right? But it's make sure you ease someone's day, right? And so that may be as simple as opening the door for somebody or paying somebody a compliment, but just kind of giving them a sense of ease, right? In some way. For yourself today, when you're talking about encouraging others, is there a practice or something that you're doing to consciously do that, or is it just whenever that opportunity arises?
Yeah, I think the place where I do that the best is inside of music itself. Definitely like on stage with my bandmates. I smile. I try to provide as warm a space for them as possible. I've played in a lot of bands where things are toxic and negative, and I try to not have any of that in my band for sure. And then also just like maybe this is a little more abstract, but just try to project that towards the audience as well. And then there's my students, that this is a little more direct, just with the way that I speak to my students, of which I have very many. And they reach out to me in the DMs and texts, and every day I just try to like lift somebody up a little bit. And then also with my friends and stuff, obviously.
I'm really fascinated with the fact that you being where you are today, touring. It seems that a place that's really close to kind of your heart or just who you are is educating, right? It's teaching. Why now? Why does that have to be part of your? Why is that part of your DNA? And what do you extract from that kind of fuels your or keeps you doing it?
Man, this, at the risk of having a very simple answer, but I loved learning music so much. That was the most fun I've ever had in my whole life.
It's just giving learning people that same experience.
Learning it was so fun, dude. Yeah, like learning how harmony works and music theory, but not in a boring way. Music theory also can suck to learn, but in my case, I learned it in a way that was so fun and so deep, and I just remember the back of my head blowing off when I learned certain things. And I kind of live vicariously through my students, and especially through the ones who are more serious. I like students that are aspiring professional musicians and helping them to get where they want to be. And I'm very, very lucky to have worked with a lot of students who are very successful now, very successful musicians. A lot of them, a lot of artists who are kind of blowing up and having their own success and stuff. So yeah, it's been amazing. Yeah, there's thousands of them in my email list now. I've been building it up for many, many years. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, on that same vein, then, like, you know, you talked about before, like, you know, the whole self-identity of, you know, kind of learning or pushing yourself. And then now with students, I mean, is there something today that you yourself are a student of, or you're exploring right now that hopefully is kind of shifting your own identity?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, you mean inside or outside of music?
Whichever one you want to touch on.
Yeah. Well, I mean, inside of music, I'm working on my technique right now.
Okay.
What's really surprising for me to tell my students is that I've been doing these exercises where it's literally just like, it's like level 1 classical music exercises. It's called hand-in exercises. It's like people playing classical music. You know, you give this to like 7-year-olds, and I'm doing it. You know, but it's done incredible stuff for my hands. My hands are more relaxed, more controlled, and playing faster than ever. So that's been really great. And also studying, there's a certain pianist that I've been studying a lot named Barry Harris. But then I think outside of music, yeah, it's been about health, dude. I really struggle with that, man. I do. I look like a skinny guy, but I don't eat well. I don't eat well, and I don't exercise enough, and I drink and smoke. So
yeah, it's like a buddy of mine. He says I'm skinny fat.
Yeah, I'm skinny fat for sure. Yeah, and yeah, I just need to do better so I can have a longer career, and also just like enjoy the days more, because I'm just so sluggish all the time.
Yeah,
especially when you're touring. You're on your 4th day in a row of being on a flight, and if you're hungover for those or not eating well, or you just feel rotten.
I tell you, man, like, doing the whole sauna and ice bath thing, I think you'd love it.
Oof, yeah, I'm definitely open to that.
Yeah. And I mean, you're gonna hopefully before you leave. Well, you said you're gonna do the flotation later.
Else later, yeah.
It's a different type. There's different type of health. Maybe that's a bit more mental health and, you know, calming your body down. But
see, that's the thing, though, isn't it? All mental health, because for me, my physical health, the only reason why I don't engage it is because of a psychological thing. There's like an anxiety block in the way. It's not a physical problem for me. Like getting healthy is a mental health problem. It's like, because there's an anxiety block for me. There's something about it I don't like. It could be anything. Be anything. I know in college I stopped exercising because when I was in high school I used to play sports. I would play basketball, and I was used to like being on a team and having a coach and having other players, and you didn't want to, you know, if everyone's running, you didn't want to be last, and if you're in the scrimmage, you didn't want to lose, and then when you play games, people would watch. And so I had this weird thing of like, whenever I would exercise, I would just assume that everyone's watching me work out. So then I would go to the gym, and I didn't realize that's what was going on. But I'd be so nervous going to the gym, because I'd be like the guy, like, oh, they're going to know I don't know what I'm doing. They're going to see me curling this thing. And really, no one gives a shit what anyone else is doing at the gym. But in my mind, I'm like, they're going to see me. They're going to laugh at me. They're going to think I don't know what I'm doing. And then I was just like, stay away from the gym, because they just scared the shit out of me. And then it took a few years later to realize, like, oh, wait, no one gives no one cares.
Yeah.
No one cares what I'm doing. No one cares what anyone else is doing.
The gym at the hotel has frosted windows, so no one can see
I like that. Yeah. But at some point I did get over that, you know. In 2019 the way I got over it is quite funny. I got a personal trainer who basically taught me, like, this is what a workout regimen can look like. You can go to the gym, you do these 8 things, or, you know, then you do these and these and these. This is what you do on a Monday, this is what you do on a Wednesday, this is what you do on a Friday, this is what you do on a Saturday. And then I would go to the gym and be like, yeah, I know what I'm doing, you know? And then you go to the gym and do your shit and realize, yeah, no one's fucking watching me. No one cares.
Yeah, that's funny.
It's a psychological thing for me.
Yeah, snap out of it, dude.
I know.
Hopefully when I see you next year, you know, trim.
Well, see, now on tour, it's just planning ahead. It's like, I know I'm only going to have this 1 hour to do it. And I have to, you know, do that. And I can't drink the night before. I never work out if I drink the night before.
Of course.
I'm having too much fun, man.
Yeah, but that's why sauna is good. That's why sauna is good.
You're also getting a look into the neuroticism of my life. This is how my brain's going, dude. Just
beautiful. Yeah, man. Jumping back into the music, Kiefer, like, going back to how you said you've had the opportunity to be around such great musicians, such great kind of, you know, how do I call them? But just pioneers, right? Sure. In their own right.
Yeah.
what are the takeaways that you've taken from them? And I also, I guess, kind of silo those two things for music and outside of music, right? So this one teacher, taught you be encouraged and encourage others.
Right.
So that's a great life lesson, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's not outside of music, but with other people that you've been surrounded with or had the opportunity to be exposed to, what are some takeaways that you've had with them?
Oh man, that's a great question. I mean, so one of them I'll talk about is who should I start with? I mean, Abraham's kind of my favorite to talk about, to be honest. But yeah, I think here's one. Okay, so my teacher at UCLA is this pianist named Tamir Hendelman, and Tamir was not only a world-renowned pianist, but also a world-renowned teacher as well. And one of the things that he taught me, maybe not explicitly, he didn't put it into words, but over 4 years, he basically showed me how anything can be learned on the instrument. Like whatever it is you want to learn, you can do it. You just have to figure out how to create an exercise for it. And you need to like isolate that, break things into really small pieces and isolate that one thing and then do it 100 times correctly in a row. And in order to do that, that means you need to be able to slow down the thing or break it into an even smaller piece so you can get that thing correctly 100 times in a row, not literally, but basically. So that's also a great life lesson as well.
Yeah.
Like anything you want to learn how to do, you don't have to do it all at once. Break it into tiny pieces, if you're trying to master, the way you interact with your relationships or the way you, whatever. I've been talking about health all day. I'm trying to master your money. You don't have to do everything. You don't have to be a master on day one. That's absurd. But if you can just find one little, just small incremental steps and just committing yourself to that consistently over a long period of time, then that's the best way to do it. So that was very useful. Goes way beyond just pushing buttons on a piano, And then, I think of Kenny Burrell. Kenny, who's one of the great jazz guitarists ever. He taught at UCLA where I went. And he said, just never lose sight of the dream. Just always believe in yourself. And, for somebody who, was one of the most iconic guitarists ever, 60 years before we ever appeared in his classroom, that was a really nice thing to hear. I think the ways you get good at music are all the same rules apply everywhere. All the same rules apply in any field. Being disciplined, having long-term thinking, and then breaking things into incremental steps and doing them over and over and over again, and having high self-esteem and believing in yourself, and those things all matter everywhere. I'm sure as an entrepreneur, you've had to interact with all of those dynamics at some point, and I'm sure you've other ones as well that really matter to you too. But yeah,
thank you for that. Just on that, then, you're talking about this book that you're working on is something that the things that I'd be saying all the time,
right?
And so they are lessons, right? And so
right
today, if you were, Ibrahim to someone else, or Abraham, right, to someone else, what are they saying? Oh, Kiefer would say this to me all the time, and it's just kind of stuck with me. To some of your students, is there something that you're sharing with them that maybe today in unknown situations or circles that you have no a view into, that they're actually sharing these nuggets with their friends or family members?
Yeah, I hope it's been positive for whatever I've shared with these kids. No, I don't know. I mean, I imagine it's a lot of the same stuff. I imagine it's. I'm trying to think of an example. If I can think of any particular student. I don't know.
Or perhaps share. Could you share a couple of nuggets from what you're writing right now that it's something that you feel that has been constant? you're just like, I got to get this on paper?
Yeah, one that I love is that your love for something can grow, and that if you're trying to become great at something, you need to also nurture your love for the thing. So, for example, and there's two kinds of love that I'm going to refer to here. One is like to love something, meaning to enjoy something, and then there's to actively love something, which means to work at it and provide acts of service, real love. I think everyone loves music. Everyone enjoys music, but not everyone loves it, like works at it. And I was at a point in my life when I was like 19 or 20 where I was loving music, enjoying it, but I wasn't actually really putting in the work and the discipline necessary to do it at a very high level. And in other words, my love needed to grow. I needed to like build up that love for it. And one of those things was to learn to love practice. I didn't love practicing. I didn't know that was a thing that could happen. I thought practice was supposed to be painful. I thought it was supposed to suck. And that's partially true. It's it's going to be tedious and challenging and frustrating and confusing. But also there were other things that I could learn to love that would alleviate that, over time. And so something I remind my students all the time is that your love for the thing you can nurture that. You don't love everything on the first try. The first time I drank a beer, I hated it. Lord knows I love beer now. But, you develop a taste for things. Yeah.
I like that. You develop a taste for things.
Oh, yeah. And then if you can learn to love all parts of it, not just the, jamming and making music, having fun, but also like learning to love practice and the discipline element of it as well. Yeah, so I remind students all the time that you got to grow your love, and that can happen in a lot of different ways. You can watch documentaries about music, you can read about music. I know for me, reading an autobiography by Miles Davis, that one made me love music so much more. I couldn't wait to practice more when I read that book. Yeah,
wow.
There's so many different ways you can do that.
Yeah, it's almost like not in a, I don't know if this is the right way of putting it, but not a calculated love, but not everything could be kind of pushed or cemented by emotions, right? Or just by that kind of feeling, right? But it's something that you have to nurture. Right?
Yeah.
And to use a silly kind of idea or metaphor of it, of gardening, right? It's not just having a beautiful garden, but it's also getting in there when you need to like pull out certain weeds.
Yeah, you got your hands dirty.
Yeah, that's awesome. Kiefer, man, it's been great. Thank you for just letting us into your mind, for this time. And thank you for blessing Malaysia with your music, coming down to ELS, for allowing me to sit down with you and chat a little bit, and wishing you nothing but just great things moving forward on the rest of this tour, when you get back home to get some rest, and really on the second half of this year, right? Excited to see how you continue to evolve, how your music continues to grow, how it continues to touch people and nurture people. And thank you,
dude. Thanks so much, Javier.
Until the next
really
time.
Appreciate it, man.
And
thank you, man.
What else can we do? So,
dude, salud, my friend.
Cheers.
Thanks, man.